UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast, here on the United Federation of Podcast Network. I'm your host for today, Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi, and joining me are my co-hosts, Justin Oser and Brandon Shemutala. Justin, how are you today?
Chrissie and Brandon, feasting on the finest cuts. Snarf cookies on the download. Damn, I screwed it up again. I'm sorry, guys. But I am here. I practiced that for like 4 hours, and I still couldn't get it down. But good to be here. How are you doing? And why are you snarfing cookies right now?
Believe it or not, I actually am snarfing cookies right
That's great. I didn't even see that. Haikus.
That's fun. All right. Okay, well, Brandon, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing really good. So I'm very excited to be here, and I think we are in for quite the discussion today.
No jokes from you? You usually joke about something.
I'm so not prepared. I have notes, and I don't have them open. We got craziness going on here. You know, so I don't mind telling people. My kid's teacher had COVID, so my daughter and I are self-isolating here in the basement right now. Because I took her to get a COVID test, and I've been with her, so I'm just like my head game is not quite in it here. So.
Well, we'll take you over 1,000 years in the future away from that.
I hope so.
And then somebody will wave a light over it and make it all better. All right, and today we also have with us Star Trek writer and story editor Phyllis Strong. Welcome to Infinite Diversity, and thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. I'm really ready to get started on this episode.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Well, we can jump right into the episode because we don't have any particular news this week, so we'll just jump right in. Now, Phyllis, we haven't talked Discovery with you yet this season, so if you want to give us your thoughts of Discovery overall this season and this episode in particular.
Overall, I'm really happy that Discovery is in the 33rd century, is 1,000 years in the future, because I think between the spore drive and the way the crew acts and everything else, it feels much more organic to 1,000 years as opposed to the time before Kirk and Spock. I think it also gives the whole show just such an open feeling of, you know, we can go traditional, but we can also go and develop all new characters, aliens, and see what's happened to them in 1,000 years. So I really thought that the high concept is terrific, and I really enjoyed I love the fact that Burnham is now human, very much in my eyes, and the fact that she's going around with Booker for the year. I thought that was an amazing episode, and really poignant when she reconnected, but also to find her searching for her identity now in a way that seemed pre-programmed before. I'm really excited about that. So those are my overall thoughts.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, Brandon, what did you think of this week's episode?
Well, okay, look, I don't want to talk about this week's episode. The first thing I want to talk about is next week's episode, and that David Cronenberg is going to be a guest star on next week's episode. Like, how amazing is that?
You're probably going to freak out, but I'm not familiar with this person. Tell me why I should care.
He's a wonderful Canadian director. He's done a lot of wonderful films. He did Naked Lunch. He did Dead Ringers. He did the remake of The Fly. Some of his newer stuff that he's done is like Eastern Promises and A History of Violence.
Does he act in the movies he does? Because he's acting in this scene, not directing, right?
He doesn't really act in his movies. It's really weird because he acts like in some weird stuff that people will get him on. Like he was in Jason X. So I'm wondering if maybe Star Trek Discovery now takes place in Jason X timeline. So
I hope not.
You need to talk with Mike Schindler about that.
Yeah.
Yes, that would make me very happy. But if you've ever seen that GIF that I use every once in a while of the guy who's like kind of freaking out and then his head explodes, that's from his movie Scanners.
GIF?
So, like,
really?
Oh, let's not have that argument here. Infinite diversity and infinite pronunciation.
I had to say it.
But okay, so you're excited about next week, but we're here this week.
Okay, fine. We won't talk about the most amazing news since they used Peter Gabriel in the short trek, right?
That was amazing news.
Go on to something.
Well, let's wait until we have more to talk about with it.
He's probably going to be on the screen for like 30 seconds.
Probably.
Anyways, I thought this episode was super fantastic. Like, when the first time I saw it, it just blew me away, like both storylines. Like, what I really, really loved about it is this was honestly old school A-B plotline storytelling that we get in Star Trek, and I really love that.
And like ship-planet divide like you typically get as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this was firing on all cylinders for me, and it really blew me away. I mean, while I loved both plot lines, I think I preferred the Saru plot line just because of a couple of things that are in there and the story that it was telling. But honestly, I really loved this episode a whole heck of a lot. It's not my favorite for the season. I think that's probably last week's episode, but
until next week,
I loved it. Until next week with David Cronenberg, then that'll be my favorite episode of Star Trek ever.
Of course.
All right. Well, Justin, your initial thoughts on this week's episode?
Well, here's what's interesting. So on first watch, I saw this episode, and it completely blew me away. I was like, this is a really like emotional and moving episode, and they were addressing things that were going on in the crew of being in this situation where they've left everything behind and they're really trying to act fine, but they're not fine. That was amazing. I love the Trill. They're one of my favorite species in Star Trek, so going more into that with Adira's storyline was really amazing. I loved seeing Adira and Gray and the connection to Calypso. So it was like all this stuff, and the music. Maybe we'll talk about this in a separate segment, but just in case we don't, listener Greg Molumby suggested we talk about Jeff Russo's music because it's absolutely amazing in so many different areas, especially I think the cello part that Gray and then Adira plays. Oh. So that was on the first watch. I was like, wow. Last week I thought that was one of the best episodes in Star Trek. I think this is even better. Then, after my first watch, I saw some criticism that I think we'll talk about, which I think affects now how I see this episode. So it'll be interesting as we talk about that. Because on first impression, I was like, this is incredible. And then second impression, I was like, I wonder if they would have done this differently, if it would have been better. So I won't be specific because we'll talk about it in detail, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because you wish that they were actually watching the movie Logan
instead of Buster Keaton. Yeah. Well, Phyllis might not know this, but we talked about Logan when we were talking about Picard because people, Patrick Stewart's in it, and people were comparing it to what might happen in Picard. I did not like that movie. Too much violence for me. So no, I would not have preferred that. But we'll talk about. But I actually like when they do really kind of old stuff like that. That's timeless. But yeah, not Logan. Sorry.
I thought it was a missed opportunity for them to be watching Spaceballs, personally. So,
totally.
That would have been perfect.
No. Even better.
What?
Galaxy Quest.
God, yes. What was I thinking?
That would have been like one of the craziest things to ever happen anywhere if they were watching Galaxy Quest. But oh well, they missed that. It was probably cheaper to put on Buster Keaton.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Nobody laughs to silent movies like that. Like, that was just ridiculous.
I beg to differ.
Yeah. I think if it's something with which you're not terribly familiar, it's things like that are funnier the first time, and our first time seeing stuff like that is so long ago we don't remember.
Yeah, I like good old slapstick, so. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I vote for the next movie they watch should be something Marx Brothers. So.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, well, you brought up the music, so let's talk music. Okay, and I'm going to then defer to Justin and Brandon on that because I have a tin ear. So tell us about the music. And Phyllis, what did you think of the music? If you are attentive to that, unlike me.
I am moderately attentive. It certainly fit the themes and the mood without overwhelming it for me. So my best compliment to it is that I didn't notice it really because it was just, except for the cello part, which I thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
And kept trying to figure out where that might come from, or was this a classical piece or something? And really like how it tied into the end to Senegal's childhood lullaby. But I'd say that the music was a really good support. But I'll leave it to Brandon and Justin as well.
I like your description of that better. I'm going to stop saying I've got a tin ear and just say that it was so well done. I just noticed it with everything else, and it didn't even. That's so much better. Okay.
Yeah, but why don't you talk about it a little bit, Brandon, before I talk about it more?
So I thought the music was fantastic. The one thing that I want to say is that the instrument looked like a cello, but it didn't sound like a cello to me. Now, I don't really know my instruments very well, but it sounded too high-pitched to be a cello. So I don't know if it's like a variant of a cello,
could be.
But it did look big enough to be a cello. So, I mean, that doesn't affect the music or anything like that. I'm just curious what the instrument was, that's all. But the music was really beautiful. I really liked some of the action cues. I mean, he's doing a really good job of mixing the synthetic music with the symphonic music. So, and I mean, I can't tell that this stuff was all recorded individually because they did all this over Zoom, right?
Well, they each of the people in the orchestra recorded their parts individually, and then Jeff Russo and whoever assists him had to piece it together. I would never know that if I didn't realize that. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, I would never know that.
They doubled down on the Adira theme, which again, it's good music, but again, it feels so weird in the Star Trek for me. It's just too bright and light and poppy.
I was thinking about that at this point, and if Adira can't remember much beyond like a year before, it's kind of like Adira is like a little infant, right? And it was kind of a very childlike piece, so I think it's meant to represent that. And I wonder if we won't hear that going forward now that Adira is joined to the Symbian. Okay.
That's her theme. To me, that's film scoring. That's her theme for the rest of the season, right? That's Adira's theme.
We'll see. But I like that too. Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more, like because there were different parts. So when it opens with Culber's log, there's something about like I love Culber just kind of going through and seeing the different people on the ship and his own log about what's going on. But then the music in that part just completely underscores this kind of sadness and lack of connection and loss of something big, and like there were all of these emotions. I actually saw that first scene as part of they show previews for the Ready Room that Will Wheaton does, and like I cried the first time that I saw that scene because the music can really like make you feel what all of these people are feeling in addition to what Culber is saying. And then the cello music is it's minimal, but it's just I don't know what it is about it, but it was just so beautiful. And there's something about it that's just this incredible, like, longing and things that I can't even describe. So, like, there were different parts of the episode where I just made note, like, where I was actually noticing the music a lot, but in a really good way, because there was just something about it that I thought, this is some of the best music I've heard. And for the cello piece, I mean, you mentioned, I think, Phyllis, like whether that's an existing piece. I don't know. It might be something that Jeff Russo wrote. But it's just like this really like haunting kind of melody. There was something really exceptional. The music's been great, I think, throughout Discovery, but I think this might have been the best set of music they've had for all of the episodes. So that's how I feel.
I'm pretty sure that would have been a piece that Russo wrote.
I think so, yeah.
I was trying. It didn't strike me as anything. I couldn't place it, which leads me to believe that he wrote it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it reminded me a little bit of it's different, but it made me think a little bit of the Deep Space Nine episode Equilibrium, where Jadzia eventually finds out that there was this previous host, Duran, that was a murderer, but it came through in this piece of music. So it made me think of that a little bit. But yeah, I think the music was just incredible. It added, for me, so much to it and made it even more of an emotional experience. Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
So there you go, Greg. We talked about the music for a little bit at least. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for the idea, actually. That's something we need to pay attention to, because it is important, even though...
Yeah, I mean, I think...
I'm going to start saying it's just background to make it...
You don't realize how much of an impact music has to how you feel about something until it's taken away. Like, if you watch this episode without the music, you would have a very different experience of it. I'm positive.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because it's cueing you, like, what's going on and how to feel about it. And, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
It added a lot for me.
That's good. All right. Well, you mentioned Culber's log at the beginning and his analysis of the crew. Right off the bat, I felt like the timing of this episode was so prescient. You know, recognizing it was written in, last year when things were difficult, but not nearly as difficult as they are in the middle of this, pandemic, and then to land slap dab in the middle of election week. It was just like, somebody's been time traveling, and that's why they did this. But so I really liked that about him going around, and I liked how he was observing the crew while they were doing whatever they were doing, as opposed to hauling them into sickbay and saying, you need a checkup. Okay. So, Phyllis, what did you think about Culber's opening log and everything around it?
It caught me because I may not be remembering correctly, but I don't remember a medical log starting an episode of Discovery. So
not of Discovery, I don't think, but I think some other Star Trek series, but I think not Discovery.
Yes, absolutely, but not in Discovery yet. So it kind of turns the whole thing. And I like the way it set the theme up of connectedness and disconnectedness and suffering. So, because without it, some of the behavior might have just seemed a little like the snappiness of Stamets and Tilly would have just seemed a little bit more in line with how they've been at times. So I really needed that log to kind of get me oriented.
Brandon?
I agree that I think it was really interesting to have this episode start with a medical log from Culber's point of view, because we don't get a lot of that where we get other people's points of view in the show so directly. And it was really neat to start it that way, because it starts it with a different tone. And Culber's a great character. A lot of these characters are great characters, and it's nice to get more with them. We spent quite a significant amount of time with Culber in this episode. Going around with him, talking to different crew. We'll talk about it later probably, but when he's talking with Detmer at the end, when he's talking with Saru at the end, these are good characters. Let's spend some more time with them. I mean, my only disappointment in the episode is that it was Burnham that went down with Adira. I think it could have just as easily have been Culber. The explanation that they wrote to me was not satisfactory enough to replace Burnham with Culber, and I would have liked to have seen more Culber and more focus on him in this episode. I think that would have been better.
I could see that, but as I think about it, I think Culber was also thinking, I'm needed more here on the ship for their mental health than for that thing that's going on Trill.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a very fair assessment.
So I think, even though he could have done it just as well, I think he was pushing Burnham toward that because he felt like he needed to keep going with the mental health of the ship at that time. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, and you know what? I could accept that. That's a very fair assessment. So, yeah.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I love this log, and first time I saw it, I was kind of crying through it because, a lot of times in Star Trek or different shows, people will have incredible traumas, and you won't really get to deal with it. I think it's happened more in recent times, but in Discovery especially, I think in the first couple of seasons, they were going from crisis to crisis and difficulty to difficulty. And in this season, they're giving it room for people to adjust I'm in a new century. Everybody I know is dead. I'm not fine. Everything is not good, but we're going to get through this. And there was one line that I think Culber had in his log where or maybe it was even when he was talking to Detmer, saying, I've been alone. I've been lost. Both are survivable, and surviving becomes living. So this crew at this point is kind of just trying to survive and get through things, and that's how they're living at this point until they really get an orientation of what's going on or what their real purpose is. I thought it was just fantastic to really kind of take this time away from any action or any big things happening in the galaxy to really focus on the crew that we've come to know and how they're doing in their mental health. It was amazing and so important. And I think I've liked Culber and what he's done, but this felt like the first episode where you really see him consistently as someone that's doing more than either dealing with trauma or treating people in emergency situations. You really see him just kind of in that, trying to maintain the crew, which I think was, it was just amazing. I loved it.
And just to add, it was also one that wasn't focused on his relationship with Stamets and how that was going along. He really stood on his own this time, and I haven't remembered him standing on his own for a long time.
I think that's true, yeah.
Yeah, not often. That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about it that way. Well, the only other thing I wanted to say about this is it made me think of an article I read, I don't know when, about burnout in academics and the concept of burnout being a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion due to prolonged and or repeated stress. Thank you, Psychology Today, for that definition, to cite it. And of course, burnout in academics is not where it comes from. It comes from the medical field. It was originally recognized in, I think, the late 60s, early 70s, of people who are just you're so constantly under stress that you can't take a breath. And then you end up at this place where you're physically exhausted, or you're mentally exhausted, but you're physically twitchy. I think we've all had those moments, and I think this was just a wonderful example of that burnout, where you get to a point where you're going along to go along, and you don't know what else you're going to be doing until it's presented to you, and you don't even think about sitting down to relax, for 5 minutes to watch a movie and have popcorn.
Yeah.
So, just struck me as very much burnout. Burnout with Burnham.
Yeah. Well, if they have burnout now, what about when they find out about the burn and what caused it?
Oh, burnout with Burnham and the burn. I'm going to stop there because this is going to turn into a whole... I didn't even go there until just now when I said it. All right.
Yep.
Okay, so anything else about... We're going to come back, of course, to Culber and the crew's situation as we go through here, but that opening log, I think, does set it up very well.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the squid. Was anybody else bothered by that?
Yeah, okay, so to me, I was weirded out by this. Because we know that it's a symbiont, and so does Burnham now, so does Culber and whatnot. Yeah. And to me, Adira's calling it a squid because she doesn't know yet, right? Like, she doesn't have her memories, right? She doesn't remember this stuff, so that's why she's calling it a squid, because she doesn't remember. And for her to call it a squid is wrong, right? And so I saw somebody online tweet that they think it's introducing the premise of the pronouns, and how eventually we're going to get to the point where Adira is going to be referred to as they and them, and it's slowly showing how Burnham is accepting the fact that she wants to call it a squid. But to me, I don't get that, because to me it's a squid. It's not a squid, it's a symbiont. And so she should be correcting her and saying, no, it's not a squid, it's a symbiont.
But I don't know if we need to take it in that direction. It could just be a nickname. Like, there's this thing, I don't know what it is, and this is what I'm going to call it. I mean, in Deep Space Nine, there have been various places, although I think Jadzia didn't like it, where people would talk about the worm or the slug or whatever like that, right? Like, they were trying to wrap their heads around and call it something. So I saw it as kind of like, this is a nickname of how I can think of this, and I didn't take too much for the direction that they were going with it. I don't know.
I just found it to be not an accurate designation just because it doesn't have.
I mean, it's not
a bunch of
accurate,
legs.
but like, do you want it to say like?
I mean, I know it's not supposed to.
Do you want to
be,
say
but...
like symbiont over and over again? The symbiont, the symbiont, the
No.
symbiont. I don't know. It's just like a shorthand. I felt, but yeah, it's not accurate, but it's a nickname.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it should have just been called a symbiont. Yes.
Yeah.
So they say it over and over. I didn't count how many times they said squid. Right?
Not very many.
I don't know.
A few.
Yeah.
but-
No.
After a while, it was just sort of, assumed to be there. Only when the symbiont is viable or the symbiont isn't viable, somewhere along those lines. I really like the Adira character. I liked her when she was introduced last week, coming from Earth and kind of being the youngster and the feisty one, and being a true 30th century whatever person was a great addition to the crew, and I just kind of, she made me smile from the start.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
definitely.
a great actress.
Yeah.
Blue
Del
Del
Barrio.
Barrio is a great actress. Some of the facial movements that she does in this episode are just outstanding. The way that she moves, her body control is really outstanding. I love her. I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, I think Blue Del Barrio is doing an incredible job. And this is their first role on that you can see on IMDb for TV or film, anything. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow,
Like,
I was going to ask where they came from.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like went to an audition. I don't know if there had been like theater background or whatever, like you oftentimes have for Star Trek, but this is like the first credit that this actor has on TV or film, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to remember the pronoun they.
I know
it's she,
it's
they,
easy to do that as well, because so far on Discovery they've referred to Adira as she, right? And we talked about it last week that it's going to get there to the non-binary pronouns. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm working, guys. I'm trying.
Saru refers to Adira as they, but now that I'm thinking about it, he might have been referring plurally to the host and the symbiont together.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it's an interesting thing. Well, I mean, we've been told it'll evolve toward that, but we just don't know when that'll happen. Yeah.
That their career is just going to be, I can't even imagine where we're going to see them in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just
okay.
so
So
good.
if we're curious about the the background for Blue Del Barrio, I guess when they got the audition for Discovery, they were in their final year of studies at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Some training.
A star student.
Just a little.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little bit like Lupita Nyong'o, who was in her last year at Yale or something when she was tapped, and so it's a good path, good training.
Yeah, and I see here also says acting in theater since the age of 7, so theater background.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, doing a fantastic job.
Are they
with that character.
British? Just out of curiosity.
I would guess Canadian.
I don't know. Doesn't say.
Okay.
I would guess Canadian.
Yep.
Just based on the speech patterns.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Take off, eh?
Right.
There you go. But anyway,
Are we going to see an order of poutine in the in the
I hope so.
mess hall? I just lost the word mess hall. Okay. So, coming back to this, why do you guys think that the Trill are so worried of non-Trill involvement or knowledge about the symbionts? We know it's established right away when the culture is introduced and the host that this is something that nobody else knows about unless it is absolutely necessary.
up until that point in the 24th century, yes.
Right, to that point. Afterward, we get the impression, or maybe it's just because we're following around somebody in Dax who is a joined Trill. But so why do we think that is?
So, the best of my knowledge, it's because they're worried about how people will treat them, and because when we find out, they're also worried that if people find out about them, they could be used as a commodity and like being stolen from people and taken.
And
from
that
people
connects
and
to what
things
they
like
say
that.
in the DS9 episode Equilibrium. It was very clear there because in that episode, I guess just to refresh people's memories, so that's one where Jadzia was having these terrible memories and or hallucinations / memories, and found there was this Duran who had joined before but was a poor candidate but had it for 6 months before they committed murder, and so they wanted to cover that up and cover up the knowledge that they found of that actually half of Trill could actually host a symbiont, but they were worried that it would become a commodity, like you were saying, Brandon. And I think you could extend that to what's happening here. Like, there's a limited number of symbionts, and if any species can just join with them, then that puts them in the same kind of difficulty that they were so worried about before, right? That it would become some commodity or something, because these symbionts have hundreds and hundreds of years of memory and skills and knowledge. This would be like a superpower, right? Like, if anybody could join with them.
Yeah. So you've opened a can of squids here.
Sure.
Quite intentionally.
So this is where I want to talk about this. Okay, so here's the hard part with Star Trek. Okay? Because when we get Star Trek, there are a ton of inconsistencies that don't bother me. There's tons of them. It does not bother me that Odan doesn't look like Dax. It doesn't bother me they changed the makeup. Mm-hmm. You know, to me, the inconsistency in one of the Trill's rules is the episode Rejoined. Mm-hmm. So when they say that the Trill are not allowed to interact, that to me is the inconsistency. And that's the thing that I don't hold to continuity and whatnot, because all the time we've seen the Trill before and even after that, they're always interacting with people of their past in romantic relationships and not.
Well, where else do you see it after that?
Ezri and Worf.
With Ezri and Worf.
Well, yeah, but they do that, but they're really not supposed to. But there's nobody to enforce that rule with them.
That's right. And so, like, to me, it's just that it's not the important thing. Like Cisco and Dax, right? I mean, like, they're supposed to be expanding. Yes, she's a Starfleet officer, so like there's a rule that we can get past that. But I mean, to me, Rejoined is the exception, and that's fine. And you know, we've got Disco Ball Trill here in the host.
Oh yeah,
that I rewatched.
I love all the colors on the symbiont. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a stubborn northern Trill symbiont.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but the thing is that, so even in the host gives the impression that the way they talk about it is that, yes, they have a joining, but in a nutshell, Odan is dominant in every way. Mm-hmm. When you're watching the host. That's the impression that you get when you're watching the episode.
Everything except one little scene. Odan is dominant, and the host is like a shell for the symbiont.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the way that they talk about, and that is not held consistent and whatnot.
Right.
But the fact is, so in this episode, the problem that I have is that, and I talked about it last week, I'm like, how are they going to deal with the fact that Adira has had this symbiont in their body for over a year now, and there's no issues, because, you know, again, in the host, they had to get the symbiont out within 40 hours instead of 96. That was established later.
And Riker, as the host, was having terrible difficulty and like was going to die, and like it was being rejected. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in this episode, they're just saying, and I'll get it out. It's like all they have to do is accept you. You accept them, they accept you, and everything will be fine. And I don't like that.
Why don't you like that?
That doesn't work for me. I was very upset with that, because I wanted a better explanation than that. Because if Riker's taking on the symbiont, he's accepting it, and obviously Odan wants it to be successful, so he's going to accept this joining as well, right? So the fact that they're having this much trouble with Riker doesn't work with what we're seeing here. Now, I understand I'm picking and choosing here the things that I have a problem with, but for some, I wanted a better explanation than we're all happy, so we're fine. I just wanted a better explanation.
I really like that, though, because I think it fits into the theme of the episode, which is about making connections through trusting people. And for me, it was the same thing with the symbiont and the host. They have to accept and trust that they want to kind of take this journey together. I mean, and for the host, you have to either accept some of the things there or just throw it out and say, you know, whatever, Deep Space Nine and later is the stuff that's canon, and don't worry about that. So it doesn't really bother me, and I don't think I think they are consistent with the host in some ways, but I don't think they necessarily have to be completely consistent. I thought it was actually a beautiful idea that they had to kind of accept each other, trust each other in order to make this connection, because the whole episode, everything that was going on in this episode was about connection, even what we'll talk about later with Zora.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to say that I'm sort of falling in between Brandon and Justin in that from the first moment I was like, why is it that a human can carry a Trill symbiont? And this doesn't make as much sense for me. And what's hidden and what's going to go on here? It turned out to be the memories and repressed memories that were hidden. But as far as even though the trust and accept is a warm, fuzzy, and very thematic piece, and I think it fits the episode, it feels to me like, at least in my mind, Adira is special in some way. That there is something about her. I mean, they may never even come up, but it's not like every human can do this for whatever reason.
Are you saying it could have been like there's a biological special thing in Adira that allows this?
Yes, for example, or something that makes her, more unique. I mean, the Trill on Trill were certainly stunned to even think that a simian could survive in a human host, and I don't think it's an evolution over 1,000 years. I think they're just it's my way of sort of bridging the gap here, but I think there needs to be more than trust and acceptance and anything emotional. I think it's like getting a new heart, and most of them are rejected, and some people actually bond.
But here's the thing. Like, I think if you went that route with some biological specialty, it would be like, why Adira? And it would feel very convenient to me. Whereas finding out in this episode, which we'll talk about more, that previously the symbiont was held by Gray, which is someone that Adira loves, makes sense that there already is that personal connection and there can be that trust and acceptance versus some biological quirk that Adira, of all people, happens to have. I don't know.
Too convenient.
Yeah, it may be too convenient, but I just having the same trouble with trust and acceptance being the one thing you have to get over, especially with what happened with Riker and what seems to it doesn't seem to be a big thing in any of the centuries beforehand that we know of, that symbionts were bonding with humans or anybody else.
Yeah, now, I don't think in on-screen Star Trek we see a join. Do we see any joining or attempted joinings other than what happens with Riker?
So let's pause on this for a second then, okay? So I'll give you two examples, okay? There's two examples in Deep Space Nine. Like, number one, I mean, Ezri didn't want to be joined. She did it out of a dire emergency. And then when they steal the symbiont from Jadzia Dax, right, in season 2, there's no way Dax would have accepted that guy ripping it out of Jadzia's body.
But both times they were putting it into another Trill, right? I think what they're saying here is that that there is a automatic biological compatibility with about half of the people on Trill to accept a symbiont. But if you're non-Trill, then it can't be because of the biology. It has to be because of something else. But go ahead.
Gray says in the episode, the joining is based on trust. I didn't just have to accept Tal. Tal had to accept me. The former hosts had to accept me too. And then Senna says, and while a human joining is unusual, which we'll address, Tal accepts you too. So, I'm sorry, but if the previous shows, Jadzia, having had the Dax ripped out of her, is not going to be accepting of, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name from season 2.
Yeah, maybe it's a terrible
The
person.
guy in season 2, the fourth episode,
the Steeler guy.
Whatever it was. Okay, she's not going to accept that. So we're right there.
Okay. I mean, I think it's something. Well, let's remember also that the events that we're looking at are over 800 years from what we've seen before. So it could very well be a matter of perspective. They believe this to be the case, but we're also told in this that a lot of the symbionts and that knowledge was lost as part of the burn, and their population was pretty devastated by that. So I mean, I think that's It's something they've never specifically talked about in Deep Space Nine, what was actually required for the joining, but maybe it is something that they're thinking is required for this. And I don't know.
Yeah. To me, the implication of what they say is, and I guess this is, I would have to do a rewatch of Deep Space Nine and some very specific episodes. Mm-hmm. And you said you just watched Equilibrium again, but the explanation and understanding that I have, and I'm sure most people have, is that originally they're like, whatever it is, 1% of the population can accept the trill.
1/10 of 1%.
Oh, that's not true. Hold on 1 second. 1% can accept it. Oh, that's not true.
Yeah.
We had to lie to people because we don't actually have that many symbionts. Right. And the fact of the matter is, half of you guys are biologically capable of accepting these symbionts, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to lie to you because otherwise we don't have enough. And then people will start selling and buying and whatnot, right? So to me, the implication there is it is something biological that not all Trill can do. The implication has always been that this is a Trill-only thing. Mm-hmm. Right? That's been the implication of the show. That's been the implication of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I think so. But I think what they're saying here is if you're a Trill, that half of the people have the biology that will allow them to be joined, but allowing to be joined doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be successful or that it might not be rejected in that half of the population. So I don't know. I think we need to get...
But that's the implication that I got from Equilibrium, is that half the people can successfully join easily. And they have to root them out by grades. They have to root them out by other means to whittle that list down.
Justin's bridging the gap, though. By saying, okay, so you have the biological... It's like, think of it as like getting pregnant. You have the biological capability to do so, but, it's not always going to work correctly. Mm-hmm. Like the Rh negative thing, Henry VIII and all of his wives.
No, I totally see what you're saying, and I think what you're saying is that they're introducing something that wasn't there before, but I think you could have some more explanation for that to work, but they haven't kind of provided that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love the episode. I really do. I'm not satisfied with this explanation. Yeah. So, that's just the Star Trek fan of me. But again, how many votes have I done this week on how many stars would you rate this? I gave it 4 stars because the episode's great. This is just my fandom nitpicking saying, hold on a second, it's not actually James R. Kirk, okay?
Yes, I was going to say we're going to file this in the same drawer with James R. Kirk.
I don't think it's that bad, but
I can headcanon the Riker thing for you, though.
Do it.
He didn't actually want it. He understood that it was necessary. He volunteered to, but he didn't actually want it.
Yeah. It was being done by necessity in that situation because otherwise there would be a war. He felt pressure. Yeah. I could see that. But
and I'd also say we have 900 years here, and we don't know the biological processes of the symbionts. We don't know how often they reproduce. We don't know how they reproduce, other than it's in those pools.
It's in those pools, yeah.
Okay. So it is entirely possible that when they got to a point where the population had dropped so much, there may have been, to use the natural selection way of doing things, there may have been a selecting for symbionts that would be more suitable for more hosts. If let's say that's because of a protein or something. I don't know enough biology to specify.
Yeah, but what you're saying is if there's fewer of them, it would be more likely for them to be successful and continue on as symbionts if they were able to have this acceptance process or something.
Yeah. The ones that survive to reproduce, are the ones that can fit with more people, and maybe that's just it's just an evolutionary step.
Or it could be engineered.
Oh, also true. They could have genetically, but it appears that since they were so adamant about humans not taking a joining and all of that, I doubt they would genetically engineer to make them available to more. I could see them doing that for less, for fewer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Brandon, you were saying.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, though, because Though I would have a hard time with that. Like, look, I'm not a scientist, okay? But if a symbiont is a long-lived species that can live, like, I don't know, if aliens are living like 100 years, and Dax has had 7 previous lives and whatnot, I mean, this is like 500 or 600 years, right? Yeah. I mean, so these things live a long time.
Yeah, they established Dax as like 350, I think, years.
Yeah.
Is it 350 years? Okay, so some
like
of the symbionts...
It could be more. In the novels, it's thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing fast and loose with that, which is fine. But the fact of the matter is that up until Adira, I mean, all of the previous hosts for Tal were Trill, right? And they've said on here there hasn't been a successful joining with another species in 2,000 years. Right, which is 1,000 years before Discovery. So this is in the 12th century of Earth.
Yeah.
Right, that this has happened last or whatever. But if a species is long lived like that, they're not going to suddenly adapt really quickly.
I think so.
When
that's
in 100-year period.
Yeah, that's
to my understanding on evolution.
Right.
Yeah,
that's why my question is, how often do they reproduce, and how do they do it? So that's for all we know, they don't. The symbionts we know they do.
No,
but...
we know they do because they talk about breeding pools and equilibrium.
Okay. But
I've been saving this in my back pocket now. As unhappy as I am with that solution, I will refer to my love of the novels and say that in the novels, the alien parasites from Conspiracy are a cousin of the symbionts, and they can go into any type of alien. I will just go ahead and accept that from here on out, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, well, then there you go.
But I'm still gonna make good podcasting and complain about it a little.
Well, I can explain that with punctuated equilibrium then. Thank you, Stephen J. Gould. Okay. Punctuated equilibrium is when you have a part of a species that gets isolated from the rest of the species. Say you've got a bunch of velociraptors that end up on an island and they can't interact with the other velociraptors, okay? They're going to adapt to the environment on that island. And over millions of years, they end up turning into, they end up evolving toward becoming something like a bird, okay?
Right.
And then...
But that's millions of years, not 120
years.
Right.
But that's... Well, but I'm talking about with the conspiracy aliens, okay? So you have... So then... And then it gets... There are times when it gets reintroduced to the old population and wipes it out, or there are times where it gets reintroduced and is just alongside of it. But if the conspiracy things... I forget what they were called. But if some of them land
on screen,
I don't know if they had a name.
Parasites, but
the parasites. Some of them end up on Trill, and then that group, being isolated from the other ones, evolves toward being able to function with the Trill. So it retains the ability to join with other entities, join with other species, but it has oriented itself evolutionarily toward the species that it has access to. I was going to be a paleontologist when I grew up.
That's a good explanation.
So one other thing I just want to add while we're talking about symbionts, because Mike Wong's Strange New Worlds of Science and Star Trek podcast, which is a great podcast, which you introduced me to, Brandon, a while back. So on this week's episode, he was talking about symbionts, and it was actually kind of mind-blowing because he was talking about symbionts, things you can think of as symbionts on Earth, including the bacteria that are in all of us humans to help us digest and other functions, and can even help with things like neurological functions and memory and things like that. You can think of those as a bunch of like microsymbionts inside of us. So I had never thought of it that way. So we think about this concept of the Trill symbionts as something alien and crazy, but we actually have these things within us that actually studies have shown, if there's, damage to the kind of what's called the microbiome or the bacteria inside your body, it can have serious implications on the function of your body. So we kind of have symbionts inside ourselves. So I was kind of amazed by that. Anyway,
we're all Trill.
Just want to mention that. Yeah.
You got to eat that yogurt.
Inside.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll talk Trill evolution on another episode if this comes up again. I'm kind of hoping we will be getting some more about that.
We've got someone with a Trill symbiont, so I think it's going to come up.
Yeah. So, I mean, because there's going to be reason to discuss it. So, but in the meantime, okay, let's talk about
Cronenberg.
Not yet.
next week.
No. Oh, darn. Okay. Sorry.
Take a deep breath. It'll be okay. You're doing for Cronenberg what I'm doing for whatever Unification 3 is going to be that's in my head, and it's probably not going to be anything like that. So that's fine. All right. Let's talk The Birth of Zora. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yes. This is pretty cool. Okay. So, general thoughts, and then I have a question that I want to see what everybody's thoughts are about that. So, Phyllis, you said yay.
I said yay because it was such a great callback to Calypso, and I'd loved Zora in that. And it actually took me thinking about the episode to figure out, actually from a second watch, figure out that what Sarah was saying was actually true, and that it was the all of the core information that had enabled this special AI to somehow be created and evolve. And just the idea that she's protecting the ship and is one of the crew in a sense was really satisfying.
Yeah.
I also like to taste in movies.
Yeah, it was pretty cool how she just showed up.
Yeah.
One thing that again got me was like all of a sudden she showed up and then she seems to retreat again because there seemed to be normal computer voices. So that was interesting too. That's it.
Yeah. I love this. Calypso is one of my favorite things in Star Trek, and as much as I argued before, Brandon, that I didn't think there would be much of a connection to Calypso, I'm happy that there is. Because I
wanted to point out that I said before we started recording the season, I said, should we do a special episode on Calypso? And Justin's like, no.
Oh, my time is also limited, but okay.
Yeah.
But we got the connection here. Yeah. So anyway, I love Calypso. I love the character of Zora. I think there's something that's so interesting in Calypso. And then to see, Saru's talking to the computer, oh, what can I do to help the crew? And it's giving out this list of things that isn't that helpful. Interstellar shopping, really?
I love that.
So, but then you see in the background on the screen, like something flashes that tells you it's the sphere data, and then you hear Zora. And I just love that interaction. And also, like, another thing that Mike Wong said on his Strange New Worlds podcast is that you can think of Zora as like a cybernetic symbiont inside of Discovery, which is kind of wild to think about, because like in order for the crew to kind of function as best they can, Saru is relying on these really creative suggestions from Zora. And he says toward the end of the episode, Zora is now trying to protect us. He, of course, he doesn't say Zora. He doesn't know the name. But he says the sphere data is trying to protect us. And so, and we found out in season 2, like, it can't be removed. It's a part of Discovery. And so there is this symbiotic relationship. So I really love that. And I think, like you said, Phyllis, there was the regular computer voice later, so it may just pop up at certain times. But it does also, call into question when Calypso actually takes place. And I'm not sure if it's sometime after this or it's 1,000 years in the future, because in Calypso they said it'd be sitting there for 1,000 years, but I don't care. I thought it was great, and having the kind of computer on the ship have this personality I think is great. I mean, we've only kind of seen that like a little bit in certain parts of the original series and the animated series where the computer was like a little off and it was like, oh, something's wrong. We got to do something about that. And then in the TNG episode Emergence, where it's like it has this emerging intelligence and then it builds the crazy neon straw thing and it flies out of the ship. So we've seen it a little bit, but this is going to be like an ongoing thing. And I just love that. I think it's really great. There have been parts in the novels where you have like kind of this more sentient AI computer, and it's just really great just seeing the banter and all that. So anyway, I love it. Look forward to more.
All right.
Brandon.
Okay, so when the first laugh started, I'm like, oh my goodness, please don't be doing the practical joke, because I do not like that episode of TAS myself.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, please don't be doing that. But then when the voice changed and I heard the voice, I've watched Calypso a lot because it's one of my favorite short treks as well. Like I think it's my third favorite short trek after the Mud one and after the
Your
Picard
third favorite
one.
short trek?
Like I love Calypso.
Why do you hate? No, I'm just kidding. It's my favorite short trek.
I love it. I think it's good. Yeah. But then as soon as the voice switched and I heard the voice, I literally jumped up in my seat, grabbed my iPad and texted you guys, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. But I didn't say crap. I said the other word. And then I made a warning. I'm like, Chrissy, mute me because I'm going to tweet a spoiler and stuff like this. And I was super excited because I just wasn't expecting it. Number one, I don't know why I didn't expect it. I don't know why I didn't connect the dots, because I saw the trailer for this week's episode last week when they were watching a movie. Yeah. And, you know, the movie is such an important part. Funny Face is such an important part of Calypso. I don't know why I didn't connect it, because I've been saying the whole time it's going to connect to Calypso. I can't believe I didn't connect it, but I'm thrilled that I didn't, because my reaction was so wonderful, and I'm getting goosebumps remembering my reaction, sitting up and going, oh, it was wonderful. So I just loved it, and I'm looking forward to this. I gotta say, I'm a little bit concerned here that with Saru's ability to captain the ship all of a sudden here, because he's not concerned in any way, shape, or form that this thing has infected his ship and is taking over and making decisions. And he's like, I don't know, the computer told me to show up for this movie. I don't know.
Well, wait.
Why is he not concerned?
Hold on. I mean, if he thinks that it's from the sphere data, they know from what's happened in season 2 that sphere data is something that was curious and capturing information, and as far as they know, isn't something that they can't. Well, I think he thinks it's something they can trust. But yes, maybe he should have been like a little more concerned about it. But you know, that voice is so pleasant. Like, why would you worry? I know what you mean.
The ship's got COVID now.
No. It's going to start sneezing.
But this opens up other questions for me, okay? So, like, I couldn't remember, and I've been saying this the last couple episodes as well, okay? So maybe this is also why I didn't clue in, is because I don't remember them keeping the sphere data in the ship.
They
and
did.
You guys have been telling me over and over, Brandon, you're wrong, and that's fine. I was wrong. But then I'm like, well, then why did they need to destroy the Red Angel suit, right? Why? And then why can they just walk around with the Discovery and not have to destroy the Discovery now that all this information is in there? To me, this is not connecting with the end of season 2. And I remember thinking at the end of season 2, and I talked about it with some people, that once Control had been destroyed, I'm like, why do they need to go to the future at all?
That was only Leland, and then they had to do a sweep for any remaining elements of Control. So they still needed to go. Yeah.
But if they had to destroy the Red Angel, which had part of the information, I don't think it had all of it, why don't they have to destroy Discovery?
Okay, so first of all, for the Red Angel suit, that's a very powerful time travel suit, so they should really get rid of that. But for the Discovery, Discovery is their only means right now because of the lack of dilithium to really get anywhere quickly and figure out what's going on. They're not going to destroy the thing that has the spore drive that can take them everywhere.
But I don't think they had the intention ever. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to destroy the Discovery. Oh, wait, we can't, because then we can't fly.
Well, they tried in season 2, and it wouldn't let them destroy it. It canceled the self-destruct.
You're right.
Yeah, it wouldn't let them. So they can't.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. I stand corrected.
Okay.
And I would say, too, that it's just because Saru says it's not his idea doesn't mean that the computer didn't say, hey, I have this idea. Would you like me to do X, Y, and Z? And he said, okay. I don't, I realize, I'm with you that the intelligence seems to be taking over the ship somewhat, but I'm not questioning Saru's capacity yet. I'm assuming there was conversation between them. But I'm assuming, so that's maybe not.
Okay. But it's great. Okay. We'll see what happens with Zora.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this guy's question. Do you guys, I think that there's a connection here, and it's not like a major connection. I think it's just more of an homage. Okay, and I don't think it's spelt the same way, but there's a Zora in Blade Runner. Okay. Right? One of the replicants is in Blade Runner is called Zora, and it's the actress who played T'Pol's mom in Enterprise. I can't remember her name right now off the top of my head. But anyways, she's in. I don't know. So I'm wondering if there's some, because it's a replicant, artificial. The fact that this has the name Zora, there was a replicant named Zora. I'm just wondering if there's some type of homage.
I mean, it could
there.
be. There have been parts in Star Trek where people do that.
Mm-hmm.
It could definitely be.
Yeah.
Yeah. According to the Google machine, Zora comes from a Slavic word meaning dawn.
Okay.
It is a name. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is really the dawn of Zora.
Yeah.
The Zora of Zora.
Who was Zora played by?
So,
I'll look up her name here. She was
it's Annabelle Wallace.
No.
Oh,
you're talking about in the Blade Runner.
I'm talking about
okay.
Blade Runner. I was just curious.
I'll take a look here. It's the same. It's the woman who played T'Pol's mom. She was in 6 Feet Under, and
I got it. Joanna Cassidy.
Joanna Cassidy.
Oh, Joanna Cassidy. Okay.
Yeah, she played Zora in Blade Runner. She played T'Pol's mom. So
yeah.
Okay.
Now I remember the name. Yeah.
All right.
I think it could definitely be an homage, and I still don't find. I find Zora delightful, engaging, and I'm sure she could be turned evil by an infection or something or other for an episode or so.
I hope not, because when I was watching Calypso originally, they could have gone that way, but I love that they didn't. That it was actually there were genuine intentions there. But yeah,
right. And I'm also wondering whether Zora will come out as a body at some point, the way she did. The way she could do all that later time in Calypso.
Maybe.
Either that or actually go into a host. I have a question.
a holographic symbiont. No, go ahead.
I have a question that speaking of, I'm not quite getting along with. I'm not quite sure when Calypso is set. Mm-hmm. I wasn't quite sure what Gray was supposed to be doing at the end, whether he was in her head and it was
yeah, I think we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put a pin in that and we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Yeah. As I tell my students, keep that in the back of your head and we'll come back to it. Before we step away from Zora, I want to see you guys' thoughts on this idea. Okay. Was the sphere sentient to begin with, or does the sentience come from the combination of the sphere data interacting with Discovery?
I think it was clear to me that it was.
I think it's the interaction.
I think it was sentient based on what you see in season 2 with its intentions and what it's doing. I think so, because it really was trying to do something to make sure that this information was preserved. I think there's some sentience there already that gets enhanced.
I guess I feel that was sort of instinctual. Maybe sentience is too broad a term, but this intelligence and the ability to have higher level learning and processing seems to be something that wasn't in the sphere to begin with. But that's just a feeling I have. It's not based on evidence.
Okay.
Just idea that I thought of. You can see what you guys thought of it. I wasn't sure. I mean, it seems like the sphere is sentient at times, but it's not. It doesn't have the capacity to go, oh, these people are speaking Federation Standard, and then talk to them in that. Instead, it does all the other weird stuff. So
that's true.
So, anything else about Zora?
Just want to see her again, and also I love the actress who's voicing her. So, who was in Peaky Blinders and is just great. So I wouldn't mind seeing her for real. She wasn't the person they showed in Calypso, but it would be great to have her on.
Maybe. So let's talk about one of Zora's ideas, and that's Saru's dinner. And we also see there that Detmer has her breakdown. So the concept of breaking bread with one's family and friends is one that's so old it arguably predates the Homo sapiens who live here, who are talking and listening to this. So it does seem like an obvious thing. And Saru even says when he's talking about it that it's like the Harvest Festival or the Harvest Dinner.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see. You know, we see on Enterprise people eating together. You know, Archer has people coming, Trip particularly. And we see like the Enterprise D crew playing poker, but we don't see them eating together a lot.
Well, there was that time when Worf's brother Kern was on board, and they basically had Thanksgiving.
I will eat some of your burnt meat.
Right.
Yes.
But it rarely happens quite like that.
Yeah. So it was a very nice way to bring everybody together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Detmer with her haiku.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to jump in on this one.
Please.
Here. I loved this scene a ton. This scene was absolutely fantastic. It was absolutely necessary. It was beautiful seeing the crew interacting. And I needed to see something with Detmer. I didn't like the haiku thing. I thought the haiku thing was silly. And when she was like laughing and like freaking out, look, you guys know how much I love Star Trek Generations. When Data starts freaking out with the jokes and whatnot, that is some cringe-worthy stuff.
I think
that is in Star Trek Generations,
though.
And I got the same impression from this as I did from Data's
I
stuff in
was
Generations.
just going to say, speaking as somebody who's had panic attacks, I think that's what she was having. I actually think that's what Data was having too. And there is no, there's no rules for what kind of emotions you're displaying during a panic attack.
Yeah, I had a totally different impression. What Detmer was going through, I didn't see it as, silly, but just I was like really concerned for her in that moment because she's kind of like breaking down and these things are coming out that she hadn't wanted to acknowledge, that she's really disturbed by the kind of injury and death and disconnection and all of that's going on, and is trying to deal with it in the moment by laughing it away, but she really can't. There is something serious that's going on. So I actually really liked that portrayal, and that made sense to me that could happen if someone's holding something in it. Could come out in a really odd seeming way like that. And I think you're right, Chrissy, like it may be different for everybody how things come out, but for her it was coming out in this particular way, and it felt real to me. But
it was cringeworthy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's cringeworthy because it's so
because you can see the difficulty and
it's
suffering.
so inappropriate for the setting, but I had a little trouble with the Detmer storyline, just in that it felt a little over the top or sudden for me. That she's been, and maybe she was a pilot and she's been pretty steady, and then that's what we've seen. And this is the first time we've, I think, gone in depth on it.
It's the first time we've gone in depth on it, but we have seen in the last couple of episodes where she's kind of paralyzed and Saru has to kind of shout at her to actually do things, or there are certain things like, you're fine. What? Like there's just like these moments where in the last couple of episodes where they're showing you that there are little things peeking out, but I think this is the first time it's really like come out in full.
I just wasn't sort of getting exactly how or why she was being affected this way. Maybe there's probably much more to the backstory that could come out, and that for me would be helpful in terms of it beyond being a macho pilot,
I mean, I think it first comes out a couple episodes before when she's in sickbay and being checked out, and is kind of shocked that one of the crew members just kind of is being wheeled out dead. Like it's finally hitting her the kind of death and destruction that can happen as part of this that she hasn't really caught up to, that's been happening actually since the first couple episodes of Discovery. So
I don't remember, was she one of the ones in the hallway when they were trying to get that stuff when Stamets got stabbed? With the piece
at the end of season 2, I don't remember.
Yeah, because the thing about
sure.
Stamets' blood can't get off the deck plates, and I have to go back and look.
She probably was there then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so like to me. It was when when the ship crashed. She had this nervous breakdown. Like just everything kind of just hit at once. I don't have a problem that she's having this panic attack and this like I don't know. I'm sorry if nervous breakdown is not the right term. I'm not. I don't know.
At least as somebody on
Breakdown.
clinical
If that's an okay
personnel.
term, then I'll keep using it. Yeah. Breakdown. Okay. I can use breakdown. She's having a breakdown, and I'm okay with that. I think it's great that we're seeing this in here. And it's not the fact that she had the breakdown at the table. It was just, to me, it was just the haiku thing is what really was cheesy to me. And even with the puking on the Tellurite and the cookies and the is there any dessert from Giorgio? I just didn't like the haiku thing.
Really?
I thought it was silly. So
Okay.
that's what I meant. Like, so the haiku was cringeworthy, not, like, I hope you understand what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I had a question about something that's going on here that's been in the back of my head for a couple of weeks, and it really came to the foreground in here. And I think that Oasaken and Detmer are in a relationship. What do you guys think? I'm getting those vibes.
You know what?
I can see that.
I hadn't thought about it much, and then somebody posted hope that somebody can look at you like Oasaken's looking at Detmer, and I looked at those looks and I saw it in my rewatch, and I was like, yeah, I mean that could be right. Like I don't think that they are, but I think that there's some attraction there or something. I was feeling that way this time around.
Yeah, I asked it in my other group, and they're all like, no. And then I saw that same tweet. I think it was from Trekcore, and I'm like, I put that
And
back.
you're
I'm
like,
like, okay, I'm not the only one seeing it here.
Yeah. Right.
But I also want to point out my favorite line delivery in the whole episode. And I apologize. I had emailed myself some notes, and I can't find it now. I'm sorry. I'm
you
not
can
quite
describe it.
prepared
I
for
might
today.
have it here.
Fine.
Okay. It's when Oasaken turns to Detmer and says, "You're right. He should be thanking you for landing this
Yes,
monster."
that's what she said.
That line.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a delivery. I love her so much.
Yeah.
And that delivery of that line was the greatest thing in this episode.
Wow. But yeah, it was pretty great. But yeah, also like Oasaken is like really defending Detmer, like, hey, guys. So it's interesting. We'll like just talk about a little bit. I think there was a point, maybe it was a year or two ago, where somebody involved in Discovery was like talking about relationships on the show, and they were like, there is like a lesbian relationship on this show, you just don't know it yet. So maybe that's what this is. I don't know. So we'll see.
Who said that?
I don't remember. I'd have to go back, because it was somebody who was involved in the show like 2 years ago or something like that they were setting something up. But also, interestingly, David Mack, when he wrote the first Discovery novel, had put together like biographies and names, and that's how we got the name Kayla for Detmer when he was writing the first Discovery novel. And part of his like biography for Detmer was that she was bisexual. So he put some. I don't know if they'll pick that up or whatever, but like, yeah, I had that thought. Like,
well, they kind of did, right? When Book came onto the bridge, even Oasaken and Detmer, they gave each other a look like, oh, look at that hottie.
I did notice that.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But like we are definitely getting more time with these bridge characters, so you're seeing more of those kinds of things come out. Like, oh, I wonder what they're thinking about this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
And I think too that she recognized before the breakdown that something was wrong. I mean, everybody kind of knew something was wrong, but she seems close enough to have realized that was going to trigger an outburst, let's say. Or something.
Yeah.
I love it. It was such a wonderful scene. The dinner, when they were laughing, it was good, and when it finally came to a head, it was good. Like both sides of it, were just truly wonderful. And when everybody left, and even again subtle, our friend Hanali Culpepper directed this episode, right? And I mean that subtle look. Somebody gets up, and I think it's Bryce or Reese. Pats Saru kind of on the shoulder, and Saru just gives this slight nod like it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
Like just this little subtle things when Giorgio gets up and is like, at least the wine was good, and then she just takes the bottle and leaves. Like there's so many wonderful, wonderful little moments in that dinner scene.
Yeah.
And it was just charming and wonderful. I loved it so much.
Yeah. And the way Tilly says, "Oh, that's just a Tuesday night at my house."
that was a great line.
Yeah, oh, that was beautiful. And it also reminds us that humans are going to human, and we can love and argue at the same time.
It's a funny line, but it's also sad because there will never be one of those Tuesdays at her house again, and it hasn't been for centuries, right?
Yeah.
Like, so...
Yeah.
Well, then she just needs Zora to get her Taco Tuesday.
There we go.
She has a new place to do that.
What's a taco?
So
no, what's a Tuesday?
What's a Tuesday?
All right.
Okay, yeah, but that dinner scene was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So I hope we're going to get a little more fleshing out of what Detmer's going through. And
I think so.
What's really required for
point.
Yeah. We need some example of what's really required for healing and mental health, and not just Picard walking into Troy's office at the end of Chain of Command 2. And then he's okay the next week.
Buster Keaton, that's all that's needed.
Oh yeah, I forgot
that's
about
what's
that.
needed in the moment, but that won't cure you permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prozac for everyone. They're just going to put it in the ventilation system.
I also like Saru's reaction to give the crew time off. It's like, what a concept.
Yeah.
And they used to call it R&R, and I'm like, yeah, Ryza. Have we all forgotten about Ryza? I guess there was no Ryza back where they were from.
There was, because you saw it in Enterprise, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. Saru's wired differently. I think Kelpians are wired a little differently.
That's true.
Yeah. So let's go on to the last big thing in this episode that we haven't talked about yet. And that is Gray. And Justin, you found an article discussing some of the questions that people have with this character and how they're dealt with.
So maybe I'll talk a little bit about what I teased earlier in the episode and listeners may know about. But okay, so maybe just to give a brief summary. So in this episode, basically, Adira goes with Burnham to the symbiont pools and then is finding out about the memories, and it's something that's really difficult, right? And then you find that Adira had this relationship with Gray, who's Adira's boyfriend, and you see some of the interaction. Well, you see Gray getting the tall symbiont. You also see, this scene where they're kind of talking with each other, and I think Gray at one point plays the cello, and there's this quilt. I thought there was a lot of really great stuff, and this was like really moving stuff that was happening, right? But then during that scene, you see something coming from somewhere. Like I noticed this. It's like something dark that's coming, and then it just kind of hits the ship. Yeah. And Gray,
it's like a shadow.
Yeah. So you don't know. I don't know if we'll find out later what that is. But anyway, something attacks the ship, and Gray apparently gets this piece of glass or something like embedded in his stomach or something, and it's a really bad crystal. Injury. Oh no, it's not a time crystal. Yeah. It's not the right. It's the right color. But anyway, so then Gray is dying, right? And you find out that there's this thing that happened that Adira had, I think, blocked out, where Adira has to make this choice, like the symbiont has to live on and it needs to be implanted in me, right? So that's what's happening inside of like the episode itself. Outside of the universe of the episode, we'd been told before season 3, in addition to what we've talked about a little bit, where Blue Del Barrio is a non-binary actor playing a non-binary character, even though we haven't kind of seen that yet because Adira is still referred to as she. We were also told that Gray is played by Ian Alexander, who's transgender, and this would be kind of, one of the first transgender characters in Star Trek. So I watched this episode and thought like, oh, this is really moving and sad and all of that. And I was just like really caught up in it. And then after that, I started to see criticism of it where it's like, okay, you introduce this trans character and very quickly you kill them off, right? And then later in the episode, sure, they kind of live on with Adira, but they're basically invisible, which is a really bad thing to portray, right? So I was seeing that criticism and I was like, oh, I hadn't actually thought much about that. But I wanted to talk about that criticism because, like, I think it's a valid criticism. And it makes people think of what happened to Culber's character where he was killed off as part of the first gay couple. So I wanted, there are some comments that Blue Del Barrio and Ian Alexander had that I want to talk about, but I want to get your guys' sense as well of like what you think about this. Since you're our guest, Phyllis, maybe I'll start with you.
I actually wasn't aware of the transgender background of the actor. So I was just going with it as it was.
Yeah. That's what's interesting about it, because it's outside the universe. In universe, you're not told that, right?
Right.
Because it doesn't matter, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I guess I understand what the criticisms could be. Again, you don't want to make people invisible, and you don't want to gloss over or basically have the lesbian death of the week and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I would think that, but I kind of like where Gray is as part of her. I don't understand why she can see him in a different way, but I don't mind him being part of her host, her former host. I think if there's a transgender issue of representation, then that can be taken up with another character, and maybe it's having the actors sort of the first step in that, and maybe another actor, or for some reason this actor might, Gray might somehow be alive in some way, or maybe through all this, or because he's inhuman, is able. Yeah, it seemed as though it's just in her head and just a projection. But I keep thinking of Tilly and her invisible friend, or an imaginary friend, and it's Discovery. There could be more to this than they've let on so far. But as far as the other issue, I think deal with it directly. If you've got your first non-binary actor to be character, because right now she's not, find it in a different way.
Chrissie, what do you think?
That did not occur to me until you brought it up when we were messaging about it. But I did see a good, for lack of a better term, explanation for it. He's dead before we meet him. So
yeah, it's like in a way it's
a flashback.
I don't want to minimize the criticism, because I think there are people that are legitimately upset by it, but it is somewhat different than you meet Culber in season 1 of Discovery, get to know him. You know that Stamets and Culber are in a relationship, so you know their identity at that point. And then Culber is brutally killed, all of a sudden by Tyler Vogt, which I hated seeing that scene and hated watching it again. And this is kind of part of the background, but so I think it's different in some ways, but I can totally see if someone's like, oh, this is so exciting, and oh, that person's dead. I mean, I think also something to realize is that someone who's non-binary is also considered to be someone who's transgender. So it's like you have two transgender characters, but it's representation in a different part of kind of that spectrum. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it is interesting to think of the differences. But I think the criticism is legitimate, and it brings up the question for me, was that necessary to do that in order to get the information? Because I think I had anticipated before this episode that the previous host was Senatal, and that's how you would get the information.
Yeah, that's what I
did not think there would be this intermediary.
Yes.
So, was that really necessary, or could Gray have been someone else that you find along the way and they're involved and it doesn't have to be killed? So that's just where I was going. But Brandon, what do you think about?
See, my concern, my concern on this plot line is I'm concerned about this plot line and where they're going to go, because as much as I loved Battlestar Galactica, there was a lot of times that I really didn't like the Baltar and Six storyline, and I can see them doing that in this, where this is somebody interacting with an imaginary character in their head. And while I realize that this is a previous person, and I realize Six was another Cylon, they had a lot of cringeworthy interactions in Battlestar Galactica. Okay, and I don't want to see that here. I hope they don't go that way. But that was, when I saw this, that was my initial thought, is like, I hope this doesn't turn into Baltarn 6 from Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
I also thought that initially, as soon as the character died, I'm like, oh, bury your gays again. Like, because Culber was how I learned about that trope, and here they're doing it again.
Yeah.
So I can understand the criticism, and it seemed kind of odd to me as well. I mean, I understand now in the story why she doesn't remember, because she buried the information in her head deeply because it was a trauma, right? But I'm not, like, one of the concerns that I mentioned in a previous episode, like, I couldn't word it properly, but there's an article here from Riley Silverman of the Sci-Fi Wire Fangirls, and it's on Trek Core.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she wrote addresses one of the concerns that I had at the beginning, which was, so she writes, I had some mixed emotions when I learned that both characters would be hosts of a Trill symbiont, which I do not see as adequate representation of the trans experience. But upon speaking to Del Barrio about their role and their emphasis on the fact that both characters were trans prior to the implementation of the Tal symbiont and remained trans regardless of Tal's presence, I welcomed it as a solid subversion of my previous concerns. So from somebody who has much more experience on the topic than I do, I'm glad that that it works for them, and now I can put that to rest, because, well, it doesn't bother me. I was wondering if people would have that concern. Yeah. People did, and now they don't see it in the same way.
Yeah, no,
so that's good.
And that's really good. And people should read that article, because it's very interesting, looking at the episode and thinking about all of these things, which clearly most of us on here hadn't thought about the first time around. I wanted to also read something that's also from the Trek Core articles. So this is from Blue Del Barrio, who plays Adira, who was asked about this, about Gray's death, and said, it was hard to hear that Gray is technically dead. It was definitely a difficult thing at first. It's something that we've now talked about a lot, and past mistakes will not be made again. Gray and Adira's storyline only moves forward in a positive way. Gray's storyline individually only moves forward in a positive way. It's not going to be kept in this sad storyline for both of them. From the beginning, it's just trauma, but it does not last, which I'm glad about, because I wouldn't want that to be their whole thing. It will be okay. Gray will be okay. I don't know how to say anything more without spoiling, but as much as I can take away worry, I want to take away worry, because Ian and I, as actors, have both been very vocal about not wanting this to be another sad, dramatic story for them. It can't be that. I would hate for this to be a trope, just another sad trans story filled with trauma. I feel good now, so I hope that we can give some reassurance. So that was interesting as well, just to kind of hear that they had that concern, and they're thinking like, okay, moving forward in the storyline, just see where it goes. I mean, at the same time, since this is a show that's released week to week, someone sees this and they're upset about what happens, right? But then you're not necessarily seeing what happens to address that until later. You can't just binge the rest of it. So I can totally understand that.
The frustrating thing about that, though, to me, is that the same thing happened with Culber, right? Not to the same extreme, but they're like, here they are. Look, yes, I see what you're saying, but we have to go on and reassure you that that's not what we're doing. And it's like, well, then is what you've done necessary? Because I'm sorry, I'm still waiting for the payoff from this super awesome love story that's supposed to happen with Culber and Stamets, where this death was necessary. I'm still waiting for that, because you know what, Discovery writers? You haven't filled that expectation for me yet. Maybe for somebody out there you have, but I messaged you guys as well, okay? The 15 or 20 minutes that we got with Gray and Adira on this blows the Stamets and Culber relationship out of the water to me. Completely blows it out of the water.
I don't agree with that. I like them both, but I think it is a very valid question. Is it necessary to kill these characters, Culber in the first place, and then Gray here, in order to? Like, I think it was clear in this episode, it was meant to make you feel very sad and cry. I saw a lot of people say, like, this is the most emotional that I've gotten on a Star Trek episode in a long time. So, they clearly succeeded on that element, but was it necessary in order to do that? And
well, I just to argue the other side for a second, I think what works so well about Adira's story is the fact that she had to make this and explains why a human has a Trill symbiont is to put her with the Trill. That last story for me, justifies her memory repression and everything else. They could have come up with another story.
They could have come up with something else where Senatol was on this ship, and Senatol was like the father that Adira never had, and it was very, very sad, right? Like they could have come up with something that didn't involve killing Gray, and you meet Gray in a different way along the journey or something. I don't know, but yeah,
along the way we meet Gray, and it's a happy day.
hey. But yeah. Anyway, I think it's.
I think this is
interesting.
probably. I hear you on the father-daughter thing, but I think or whatever. But I think that this was such a poignant love story, and that Star Trek doesn't always do those well. So even if there are these issues, which there are. There's some on the positive side. So see, I'm actually coming off on the positive side on this, and hope that it will be what Blue says going forward, which is a much lighter storyline for them.
Yeah.
However that works.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Well, yes, we're going to find out lots about Gray, I hope.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to talk about in the season. Yeah.
So, do we have anything last that we want to add, or have we tread all the ground that we possibly can with this? At least in this format. Final thoughts?
I mean, I think it's a fantastic episode, and I'm looking forward to next week. Not just for Cronenberg.
That's good to know.
I hope for your sake he's in it for like the whole time, and he's like the crux of the episode.
Star Trek Discovery, starring David Cronenberg. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll be with Philippa.
Next week is going to be very interesting with you. Okay, Justin, you had some final thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. So final thoughts. Again, I love this episode. I do think from what we've talked about and the criticism that I've seen, I think it takes the episode down a little bit because it makes me question whether it's necessary. But in that moment of like the first watching, I felt like this is one of the best things I'd ever seen. But I do recognize the criticism, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes going forward. But I do think overall still it was a really good episode, and I'm looking forward to where it goes to. One other connection I wanted to mention. At the end, when they have the movie, I think Linus passes Georgiou like a popcorn bucket that has the little Starfleet symbol.
Right.
It's pretty much the same as the popcorn bucket that you see in Calypso. So I thought that was cool.
Yes.
Oh, very
and I'm still
nice
shipping
catch.
them, and their term...
You're still shipping Linus Georgiou?
Still shipping Linus and Georgiou, and they are now called Georgius.
I like... No, I think it's better to... How about Lorgeau?
They're Georgius together.
No? Okay.
Lorgeau.
But yes.
They're Georgius
That
together.
sounds too much like Lorca.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Justin, you've got written down here one of the canon connections that I wanted to
go ahead.
address with. So the issue of damaging the symbiont in the transporter was immediately forgotten on DS9, and I don't think it was.
Oh.
So I have a headcanon explanation for that.
So stubborn
Please.
Northerners.
Yeah, I was the one that put that down. So.
Yes. Okay, so that was you, yes. So for me, it's not that it would ever have damaged the symbiont, it's that the symbiont would have registered as a parasite when they transported.
Oh.
So that's why they never wanted to transport.
Got it.
And so then if
that's
they
how I
know...
always-
And then after that, if they know, they can just transport. Oh, perfect.
Now they could
Fantastic.
just transport. Now it doesn't
Problem
matter.
That makes
solved.
perfect sense.
So,
Oh, awesome.
yeah.
Well, I'll sleep better tonight.
So, anyways, excellent.
Everything you ever wanted to know about Trill, and everything explained.
Yep.
All right. Are we good? Any other final thoughts? Or all right.
I'm
okay,
good.
so we're going to get through this closing quick because Brandon has to run. All right. Again, Phyllis, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. Where can listeners find you online? And would you like to tell us about any current or upcoming work?
Okay. They can find me at Philly, PHYLLY, Strong, on Twitter. And I am currently working on adapting a sci-fi short story that's a little more on the fun side of saving the Earth as opposed to some of the dire dystopian things. And it's actually based on a like 1950s short story. So it needs to be updated, but it could be really cool. So that's what I'm working on right now.
All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're
and
welcome.
we'll put that, your Twitter handle in the show notes there. So,
Perfect.
Justin, where can people find you when you're not arranging for a movie night for our overworked UFP Network crew?
Oh, that would be great. Let's see some movies. Some classics from many centuries ago. I want to mention something before I give out my information. Next week's episode is called Die Trying, which made me think of the John Jackson Miller novel Die Standing, which has Giorgio. So I hope it's Giorgio heavy. Okay, so you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek, and you can also find us in our Facebook group for the United Federation of Podcasts called Federation Council Chambers. Please join us there to discuss this and other UFP episodes.
All right. And Brandon, where can people find you when you're not just waiting for David Cronenberg to show up?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me here on the network with a show called Franchise Fatigue, where we cover all sorts of movies, remakes, and sequels. And you can also find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network with a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, where we cover all of Hitch's films in chronological order. And last but not least, I am on the Nerd Party Network with a show called House of, which has changed. We originally were House of Fincher, and now we're going to be doing House of Nolan, and then we'll be doing House of other film directors later on as we continue
House
along.
of Takuvma.
And maybe I can convince them. House of Takuvma. No, just film directors.
Yeah.
But maybe I can convince them to do House of Cronenberg. I've been trying for a little while to convince them, but we'll see.
All right.
Awesome. Chrissy, where can people find you when you're not trying to write haikus?
Yeah. I don't do that. I'm on Twitter at the Goddess Olivia. That is TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. Yay, left is best. You can also follow my work in history by liking the webpage my fellow historian partner Jason and I run, and that is History with the Szilagys at historywiththeszilagys.org, and Szilagys is spelled Szilagys. Well, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to our executive producers, Ken Tripp, Tony Robinson, and Zach Moore. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music, and Tony Robinson for the awesome show art. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe wherever your podcasts are served. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us on Twitter at UFP Earth, or the Twitter handle for this podcast specifically, which is at IDIC Podcast. We also have a Facebook group for the United Federation of Podcasts called the Federation Council Chambers, where you can discuss the episodes for any UFP podcasts. And you can also email us at infinitediversity@ufp.earth. On the next episode, we'll be talking about Discovery Episode 5, Die Trying. Until then, peace and long life.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.